you can draw this in Procreate. During this tutorial, we are going to create this serene sunrise landscape. And the good news, you don't need any experience with drawing or with Procreate at all. I will guide you through every single step. We will be using brushes that are already in the Procreate app, plus a free brush which you can find through freefromflow.com. And there you won't just find a whole bunch of brushes, but also color palettes and my special ebook about color theory. Now to create this scene, just follow this video all the way till the end, and once you have finished it, be sure to share your work on Instagram and tag me in the image. Not just in the description, that way I will be able to find your work and perhaps we'll see it in the next You Can Draw This video. Alright, let's get started. First of all, the canvas is 2300 pixels by 3000 pixels. But since we are creating a landscape in a circle, you can also go for a square canvas. For instance, 2300 by 2300 or 2500 by 2500. But since I want to cover my entire iPad with color, I am choosing this canvas size. As always, I have created a color palette for you, which you can download for free through the link in the description. In case you want to use the exact same colors as I'm using, do be sure to set your color profile to sRGB though. The first thing we'll do is go to the layer menu, that's these two little squares, and we'll click background color. And then we'll pick this first color in our color palette to give it a nice green bluish color. Then we'll work on layer 1 and we'll pick the Monoline Brush, which you can find under calligraphy. And for our color, we are going to pick the second color in the color palette. And we are going to draw a circle. The size of your brush doesn't really matter, just draw a circle like this. Hold your pen in place to make it snap to the quickshape tool. And then hold one finger on your screen to make it snap to a perfect circle. And then you can drag in the color like this to fill your circle. Now I want to make sure that my circle is in the exact center of the canvas, so we'll go to the little arrow here at the top and go to snapping here and make sure that snapping is turned on. And now when you move your circle around, you'll see these orange lines appear. And once you have a vertical line and a horizontal line, your circle will be in the exact center. And then you can click the arrow again. Now let's duplicate this layer. We are going to the layer menu, the two little squares, and we are going to slide to the left and click duplicate. Then we'll go to the color palette and we'll pick this third color in the color palette and drag it onto our circle. And we'll make this circle a little bit smaller. We'll go to the arrow again. And when you resize your circle, be sure that it's set to uniform. And then you can drag one of the corners, make it a bit smaller, and then be sure that you place it in the exact center again. You can look at the blue line or the orange line there. It is in the exact center right now. And then just click the arrow again to get out of that menu. Now we are going to add a gradient to our circle. And we don't want our paint to show up outside of our circle. So we are going to the layer menu and we'll click that top layer and set it to alpha lock. Now the paint, that blue on this layer is locked and we won't be able to paint outside of that shape. For our brush, we'll go to the soft brush, which you can find under airbrushing. For our color, we'll pick this fourth color in the color palette. I have the opacity of this brush set to 60%. And let's check the size. Let's set that to 20%. And now let's lighten up that middle area. Let's start there and move our way up. And we'll leave that top part, we'll leave that a little bit dark. And we'll lighten up this lower part as well. A bit like this. And then we'll switch to that fifth color here. And we'll lighten that middle area even more. Gently work our way down. And to smoothen our gradient even more, you can go to the magic wand here at the top, click Gaussian blur, set it to layer, and drag your pen to the left, to the right, actually to the right. to increase the blur and to smoothen your gradient. Let's go for something like 18.5 and then click the magic wand again to get out of there. For the next step, we are going to create some mountains, some hills. We'll click the plus for a new layer on top of our circles and we will set this to clipping mask. Now this layer is clipped to the circle and whatever we paint on layer 3 will only show up on that circle. Let's go back to the Monoline Brush. And for our color, we will pick this third color in this second row. And we are going to start on the left side here. By the way, the size of my brush is 12%. The opacity is at 100%. And we'll start here a little bit above halfway of our circle and we'll make a wobbly line up. And then we'll move down again. Make a nice wobbly line. And then move back to the left. And be sure to close your shape. Even though you can't really see it, you need to be sure that it's closed. Then we'll start about here. To the right. And we'll make a wobbly line up again. And we'll go down here. Back up again for another little mountain hill kind of thing with wobbly lines. Then move back to that start to be able to close your shape. And I think we can make this left one even a little bit bigger actually. Let's just attach a little part to it. Another wobble and then we can start filling these shapes by dragging in the color like this. Now I want to make more hills behind these, so we'll go back to layer 1 first and then click the plus for a new layer which will be between our circle and these hills over here. For the color, we'll switch to this second color over here. And this time we'll start about halfway of our left hill. And we'll make a wobbly line up again. And go down. And back up again. Let's make a nice wobbly line. And then loop back. To make sure that your shape is closed before you fill it by dragging in that circle. I want to make sure that this lower edge is nice and crisp, nice and straight. So let's go to the selection tool, that's the S-shaped ribbon, and set it to rectangle. Now you can make a rectangular selection and make sure you cover that bottom half of our hills. So that way we are able to erase this part. You can do that by swiping with 3 fingers. And now that lower half is cleared, you have a nice straight line, a nice straight edge there. Now let's make some more hills behind these. So we'll have to go back to that layer 1 here and then click the plus for a new layer. And we'll switch the color to that first one here in the second row. And let's make some more hills behind here. Some wobbly lines. And again, make sure that you loop back to close your shape before you fill it. Now I also want to make some shapes here in front, some like trees. So let's make a layer on top of layer 3, click the plus, and again make sure that you turn on clipping mask. And for the color, we'll switch to the 4th color over here. And we're going to make wobbly lines again. Nice and easy. Let's start about here and wobble our way to the right, going over that hill. And then we'll go back to the left to close that shape. Don't worry about the wobbliness of your shape. We want wobbles. We'll wobble up here, go down, wobble back up, all the way to the right, and then we'll loop back over here. And then we can fill these shapes by dragging in the color. And now we can do that same trick that we just did with the selection tool. We'll go to the S-shaped ribbon, use the rectangle selection, and we'll select these bottom parts like this, covering that lower half. And now you can use the 3-finger swipe to erase that part. But you can see that some parts of those hills are sticking out. So let's do the same trick there as well. Let's go to layer 3, use that selection tool, make a rectangular selection of that lower part, and let's use the 3-finger swipe to erase that as well. Now we have a nice clean edge there. Now I want to work on the edges a little bit, give them a little bit of texture, making them look a bit more like they are covered with trees and bushes. We'll go to the artistic brushes for that, and we are going to use the Tarolea. Not sure if I'm pronouncing it correctly, but we are going to use this brush. And we are going to use the 3rd color over here because we are on the layer with the hills that are in front. Let's check the size of our brush. Yeah, that's nice. We have it set to 2% and the opacity is set to 100%. And let's just go over the edges, adding a little bit of texture, making it look like there are trees and bushes on these hills. Just like that. Then we'll go to these on the right. We'll go up here. And then we'll go down. Just going along these edges. And we'll do the same with these shapes in the front. To do that, we'll go to layer 6 again. And we'll pick that color that we used there. That's the 4th color in this. For the size, I'll stick with the 2%. And we'll go along the edges of these bushes. Now, if you want to go more in depth, learn more about Procreate and creating digital art, then you might want to check out my Patreon page, because there I share a lot more classes about sketching, for instance, working with values, colors, lots of subjects. So if you want to learn more, be sure to check that out. For the next step, I would like to add a little bit of mist to our hills. We'll go back to the airbrushing brushes, use the soft brush. And let's start with these hills. Layer 3. We'll click the layer and use alpha lock. That way we can add our mist to the hills without going over the edges. Let's pick this color over here. And let's just go over that underside of our hill, adding a little bit of light there. And on this side as well, just make some horizontal strokes. I'm using very little pressure. And let's do the same for those hills in the back. We'll go to layer 4 first. Again, click the layer, use alpha lock. And let's switch to this color over here. And let's lighten up this underside. We'll make the brush a bit smaller, 9%, to lighten that up. And let's do that for layer 5 as well. Click layer 5, set it to alpha lock, and let's add a little bit of mist there. You know what? Let's add a subtle light touch to these bushes in front as well. We'll go to layer 6 again, click it, set it to alpha lock, and let's pick this color, that 3rd color over here. And let me make the brush a bit bigger again. Let's add a big 12%, and let's just go over that underside, slightly lightening that up like that. Alright, now I'd like to add a sun, and I'd like to do that in the back behind our hills. It would be weird if it would be in front of those. So let's go to layer 1, then click the plus for a new layer. So now it's between that circle and those hills. We'll go to the Monoline Brush again, and we are going to pick this 2nd color over here. And we are going to draw a circle. Let's just draw a circle, hold your pen in place so it snaps to the quick shape, and then hold one finger on the screen to make it snap to a perfect circle. Then drag in the color to fill it, and let's place it in the center. We'll go to the little arrow, it's still set to snapping. Now let's move it until you see that vertical orange line. And I'll place it around here and then click the arrow again. Now we are going to duplicate this layer. So we'll swipe to the left on the layer and click duplicate. And for this bottom layer, we are going to lower the opacity. We'll click the N for that. And then use the slider and set it to 45%. And now we'll go to the arrow and make this circle a little bit bigger. And then again, place it in the center. We can make it even bigger, so that it's slightly bigger than our first circle. Now we'll duplicate this layer. So again, we'll slide to the left, click duplicate, then select the bottom layer, and then click the N again to lower the opacity even more. We'll go to 25%. And we'll make this one even bigger, so we'll go to the arrow again, make it bigger, and place it in the center. Let's go even bigger. Place it in the center, and there you have it. And now you can click the arrow again. Now let's create a reflection on the water. First, let me just merge these layers of the sun. So those are all on one layer, and now let's duplicate all of these layers, which we will be using for our reflection. So we'll slide to the left, click duplicate on each of these layers till we have a duplicate of all of them. And now we will select the duplicates. So you can swipe to the right to select all of these. And now we can move them underneath the other layers. So on top we have a set of these layers, and here we have another set of these layers. And now we are going to flip these. We can do that by going to the arrow while we have them all selected, and then go to flip vertical. Now we can drag them down, and you can see that it looks a little bit weird. Let's make sure that they're centered. We'll want to have these layers touch their duplicate version. So these are a bit too low. So let's go to those layers, layer 4, 5, and 7. And then let's click the arrow again to move them up a bit. And then let's move layer 5 and 7 up a little bit as well. We'll click the arrow again. And let's let's move that sun up. So we'll click layer 7 and move it up a little bit. Like that. Now we'll want to blur and lower the opacity of these layers. Let's start with our sun. Let's go to the magic wand and use Gaussian blur. Set it to layer and slide to the right. Let's go to 8.5%, and then let's lower the opacity of this layer so that it's just a vague reflection. Let's go for 45%. And then we'll merge it onto our circle. So click the layer and select merge down. Then we'll move on to this one, layer 5. And let's combine it with layer 4. We can merge these. We'll have to turn off alpha lock because we want to blur this layer. And if we have alpha lock turned on, it'll only blur the pixels that are already there, and you'll just have, well, you'll keep these crisp edges, but won't really blur the layer. Let's go to the magic wand and let's use motion blur. We'll click layer. And we'll slide to the right just a little bit. Let's go for 15% or 15.7. And let's lower the opacity here. Let's click the N, turn it to the left, and let's go for 50%. And again, let's merge it down. Let's click the layer and select merge down. We can merge these two together as well, that layer 3 and layer 6. Let's pinch them together and turn off alpha lock again so we can blur this layer. We'll go to the magic wand, use motion blur, set it to layer, and slide to the right. To get a slight motion blur, we'll go for 18.7%. Let's click the magic wand again, and let's also add a little bit of a Gaussian blur. Let's set it to layer and blur it even more. Let's go for 4.5%, and now let's lower the opacity. So we'll go to the layer, click the N, lower the opacity to around 60%. Next, I want to add some lines to the water. But first, we can actually merge this one with the layer below with the circle. So click the layer, select merge down, and then make a new layer on top for our lines. We are going to the wrench, then to canvas, and then turn on drawing guide. Then go to edit drawing guide, turn on assisted drawing, and turn down the opacity of this grid because we don't really need to see it. And then click done. For the color, we'll keep using this very bright color, the second color in the color palette. And for our brush, we are going to which was it? And for our brush, we are going to the sketching brushes and use the peppermint brush. I have it set to 100% opacity and the size is at 60%. And we are going to add some lines. And because we have drawing assist turned on, we can only make horizontal or vertical lines, but we are going to stick with horizontal lines. And just make a couple, group them a little bit to add a little touch to this water. It's nice and still. It's a calm lake. Just a few lines is enough until you have something that looks like this. Now finally, let's add a man in a boat. I have a special brush in the treasure chest. You can get it by going to Free From Flow. Unless you are already subscribed, then you just need to check your email. Here we have the boat brush, and let's set it to this color over here, that third color, well, that third row, first color. And I have it set to 100% opacity, of course, because it's not a ghost boat. And I have it set to 8% in size. And let's create a new layer for it. Let's click the plus for a new layer. Let's actually put it on top of all the others. And let's drop it here. And of course, you can just go to the arrow tool here. Resize your man, resize the boat. Place it wherever you like. I'm going to place it over here. And let's give him a reflection as well. So we'll duplicate the layer by sliding to the left, clicking duplicate, and then we'll select this lower one. And then go to the arrow again to flip it vertical. Then let's drag it down until the underside touches like that. And let's lower the opacity a bit. Let's go to the end. Lower the opacity until you are at, let's say, 60%. And let's give it a slight blur as well. Let's go to the magic wand, use Gaussian blur, set it to layer, and just give it a slight blur. Let's go for 3.3%. I like that number. And then let's just click the magic wand again to get out of there. And that's it. You've done it. I hope you have enjoyed following this tutorial. If you did and you want to support this channel, then do be sure to leave a thumbs up, leave a comment, subscribe to the channel. That would be great. And of course, don't forget to share your work. I'm looking forward to seeing you again next week for the next You Can Draw This video tutorial. Thank you for watching.